Hello and welcome back to Pensive Podcast. I'm Chloé and I'm the host of this podcast and I'm the founder of Pensive. Pensive is a way to help you find a more mindful, productive and relaxed lifestyle through events and workshops and online courses and this podcast and all kinds of things. So please subscribe for more on this podcast and more information about Pensive. So today's episode is just me. I've really enjoyed having guests on the podcast. I've had some really, really cool conversations with them, just about things that I would never get to ask them in my day-to-day life because it's more in a formal interview type setting, especially because I know them personally. So it's kind of weird to just be like, so how do you feel about this really deep topic? So that's been really cool. And I will be bringing more guests on the podcast if you're interested in coming on. Honestly, I just want to talk to anyone about anything that they think is cool because I think it's cool. And in the most recent episode with Edre, it was all about the publishing industry and translation and how language affects translation and who gets to decide what's put on our bookshelves and in the bookshops. And I've spoken with Edre about this outside of the podcast as well. So that's why I just really wanted to bring it on because I don't know, like there's so many industries and areas to creativity that aren't as talked about. So that's why, I thought I should bring her in. So I think everyone's kind of, and I'm going to talk about it today again, because who doesn't? Everyone is really familiar with the conversation around social media because we're all a part of it, but we're not all part of like the publishing industry. Right? So I think that's why it's cool to have people outside of, content creation bubble. But today it's just me. I hope that's okay. I thought I'd try and approach this solo episode and the next solo episode in a different kind of way, in the sense that I'll be asking myself questions and having a dialogue with myself rather than just chatting, I guess. I'm going to try, because that's what usually gets the thinking gears going in my brain if there's some questions to be answered. I'm one of those people that, when you take a walk and you're like, let me clear my head with a walk, my head is like, what's the meaning of this? Why is this making me angry? Why am I sad? What are these emotions? Like, it's just, there's like a never-ending existential stream of thought. So in a way, this is like a walk for me, for sitting down, where I get to contemplate and ask myself questions out loud. Because honestly, when it's in my head, it just gets stuck there. So I'm trying to get these emotions out. And I know I said that, no, this podcast is not therapy. I pay someone for that. I still do pay someone for that. But also, I feel like I'm going to ask myself questions that are relevant to other people. So it's a win-win for all of us. So I had an interview with Creative Minds, with Will, the host of Creative Minds. It's a YouTube channel. And I don't like religiously follow any content creator or anyone I'm like subscribed to, but I regularly check in with this person's YouTube videos. So I find them like really insightful and well thought out and quite motivational, inspirational as well. All the videos are geared towards people who identify as creative and the process they may be going through and answering some questions and giving advice and that kind of thing, and using the other words of other artists and creatives to put forward his thoughts and messaging. I don't know, I found the channel like maybe a year or two ago, and I was like, wow, this is really cool, because YouTube has a lot of slop. Don't get me started on the AI slop. I had this conversation with Will from Creative Minds. He sent out an email for people who were willing to be interviewed about their creative process. And I was like, yeah, I want to do this. It's really cool. And then I was held back by the thought of like, what is my creative process? Like, what is my artistry? Am I creative and I'm artist? And I kind of held off on emailing him because I thought like, actually, can I even consider myself like an artist or a creative? And what's my practice? Because in the past, it was obvious. I was like, I am a editor-in-chief of a fashion magazine. I create photo shoots. I write articles. Like, it was very this plus this equals this, very straightforward. Fashion industry, fashion is creative. We can all accept that, blah, blah, blah. But since coming back from Japan, I have thought about what is it I want to do. My first thought when I stopped the magazine, I was like, oh my God, like, what do I do now? I've been doing this for 5 years. My creative learnings have been entirely in this direction with fashion and in this way. And I have to cater to an audience. And then when I finally got free reign, I was like super excited. I was like, oh my God, I can do whatever I want. And then you realize, oh my God, I can do whatever I want. And you don't know whatever it is that you want. And you don't know who you are. And you don't know what to do. So that's kind of where I've been for like, I'd say a good 2 years, which is terrifying to say that the time has gone that fast since I've been back from Japan. Up to this point, haven't fully integrated or come up with a full and coherent sense of what my creative practice is. That scares me because I've always had like something on the go. I was doing fashion blogging, I did the fashion magazine, and then it stopped. And I realized that that's all I've ever done fashion-wise. And I realized that fashion wasn't something that I wanted other people involved in anymore. Because with the magazine, I would get a lot of rebuttals or questions and stuff from other people because what I wanted to put out into the world was not necessarily what people wanted to see. And that's the point of like a magazine. It's supposed to be in like dialogue with the audience, right? And for my niche, which was Japanese fashion, people wanted to see pink and feminine and girly and cute and Harajuku and the image of it. And I was like, well, it's not the case anymore. Not everyone looks like that. Of course, some people do or did, but it's just not what it was. And the whole point of the magazine was to showcase what was going on. And so I was constantly having to toe the line between getting the clicks and the likes and properly presenting the fashion scene as it was. So, and I think all magazines kind of suffer from that as well. So that's kind of where I got really, really, really stuck with figuring out what was next after ending the magazine, because it was just such relief at the same time. I was like, oh my God, no more deadlines, no more editing and back and forth. And sometimes I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And I just really wanted something that was just for me and so personal. And I really thought that my time running a magazine would give me all the knowledge and experience I needed to move forward with my own creative practice. And then 2 years later, here we are. This is what today's topic is about. Yeah. I wanted to talk today about creativity and artistry. And if you can even call yourself a creative, what is being a creative? What is being an artist? Is there a difference? That kind of thing. Creativity as we know it now in the era of social media, and art in the era of social media, and how to find your own personal creative practice and your journey. And so that is today's topic in a very large walnut shell because it was not very concise. So I wanted to go back to the conversation I had with Will from Creative Minds, which should be out by the time I post this because I take 10 years to post things because I am a perfectionist, which is another topic of conversation. And it was brought up by him about what is your creative practice, just asking me. And I just couldn't. I've been thinking about it for weeks. I'm like, what is it that I do? What is it that I actually do? Like, what does my creativity consist of currently? Because as it stands, I haven't put out anything. And I think that's the key word here, is that I haven't put out anything. So where I am currently is, in the past 2 years, I've just been collecting thoughts, collecting ideas, just collecting mediums and sources and things that could potentially become a larger project. As per usual, like, I just exist up here in my head. So whenever I want to do something, it takes a lot of effort for it to get out of the head and onto a paper or a computer or something. Like, it just needs to come out. And so that's where I've just been stuck. But for me, it's so fun to think of ideas. Like, I have a never-ending stream of ideas. I've always been this way, and I can come up with stuff on the fly. Like, that's what got me through the magazine. And I think that's like a muscle that was really exercised, because you just got to come up with stuff. Like, you have a sentence, you have a kind of idea of a theme of something. You got to find someone that fits the theme and how you're going to squeeze them into it and how you can put them in a setting that makes sense with them, but also with the theme and that kind of thing. That's something that I really pride myself on, is the ability to just like have ideas about anything and tie it into a larger concept or put it in a setting of that's really interesting or that juxtaposes and, you know, creates a different visual and that kind of thing. So that's what I spent a lot of my time doing. I had on my wall in my room, I had like a big paper board thing with a bunch of post-its on, and the post-its just started gathering dust because they would just get put on there. So layers and layers and layers and layers of post-it notes. No action was ever taken, and I'd always just put it off and push it aside and say, oh, but it's not quite right, and I haven't found my medium, and I haven't found my thing. Like, I'm not a trained artist. I was never trained in any creative anything. So everything I've learned up to this point has been completely self-taught. Even the fashion stuff, like when you tell people like, oh, I did a master's in fashion, they're like, oh, what collection did you make? I didn't make anything. I don't know how to sew. I'm not kidding. I don't know how to use a sewing machine. I tried once with one friend, and I got really angry about 20 minutes in, and shout out to anyone that can use a sewing machine, because that's the most infuriating piece of machinery I've ever come across in my life. So thank you to everyone who repairs, mends, and sews. I know how to take pictures, kind of. I have cameras. I have several cameras, film cameras, digital cameras, lomography cameras, Polaroids, etc. I just love collecting stuff, ideas, cameras, etc. And I can edit, and I can video edit. But when it came to actually thinking of like what I would want to do, I realized it started from what I had been trained to do rather than what I actually felt I wanted to do, if that makes sense. So I thought, okay, I can take pictures, and therefore I can take pictures of these things because I know how to create it and put it together and edit it in a way. Or I can, I can create a video because I have this skill base. But when it actually came to actually doing it, I just didn't, because that there's that voice in your head that's like, oh, it's not quite right. Oh, but you don't know this thing. It's the perfectionism, isn't it? It's just the perfectionism. It holds me back. At the same time, I think that even though I felt like stagnant and stunted in my creativity, to have to experience those blockages actually like weirdly served me, like in a good way. Only in the past month have I been able to actually do something. And it was literally one day I woke up from a nap. I was like, if you don't do something now, you never will. Because I have this thing, obviously, when I do NPR, I practice what I preach, guys. I'm telling you, I use that. I use it every day, obviously. It's to be used every day. So one of my activities for the day was to do creative hours. So I scheduled in my creative hours. I think it was under P that day. So I was like, I'm going to be productive. I'm going to have at least 2 creative hours I've set. And I like napped like halfway through my creative hours. And I was like, Chloe, you scheduled this in. You must do your creative hours. What can I do in this moment that is creative and I will actually do something. Like I can physically see it in front of me. I'm not creating any more ideas. I've sat down and I've done every single idea. It's all done. I've reached into the corners of the universe and pulled forth every idea. Sorry, guys, there's no ideas left. I've taken them. That's how many ideas I have. Okay, it's done. There will be no more geniuses in the world, no more artists, no more painters, nothing, because I've stolen all the ideas. So I got up and I was like, what can I do now? So there was something I started, I think, like 7 months ago, which was I got a book that I just bought randomly in Japan and started like cutting it up. I had this idea about how to transform this book into something else. And while I was doing it and I was cutting it up and gluing the pages together, I just didn't like what I was doing. It looked horrible, it looked amateur, and I was using a scalpel and not scissors for some reason. So I was just making it super difficult for myself. And I glued the pages and they all bunched up towards the spine and you couldn't open it properly. And I made a mess. So I just gave up. But I was like, I have this book. It's not perfect, but it contains the idea of what I want to do. I was like, oh, but I want to do it in this way. And then I need a black pen because I want to color it in. I was like, no. You have everything that you need in this moment right now to create something. I just got my iPad. I scanned in some of the pages of this book. And instead of coloring in on the actual book, because again, I was like, what if I get it wrong? What if it looks even worse? I just did it on Procreate. I just scanned in the pages, scribbled on it in the way that I wanted. And all of a sudden, I was so preoccupied with it and actually enjoying the process that I actually achieved something. Like, I didn't finish the whole book. I didn't finish the whole collection of pages. I did 4 pages of scanning and coloring. But I did something, and that was just absolutely monumental for me. And it's taken 2 years. It's taken 2 years. Sorry, this is just sinking in for me now. It's taken 2 years to scribble on 4 pages of a book. And my God, I looked at it and I was like, this is amazing. I love it. I looked at it the next day, more importantly, and I still liked it because I don't know about anyone else, but it's very common for me to look at my work, after a few days, hate it and think this is sloppy, this is poor, whatever. I still liked it. I haven't looked at it again, or I might look at it again. And I think I'll still like it. When I was focusing on the outcome of the artist creation, I wasn't actually doing anything. I was just focusing on what it's going to look like at the end. And as soon as I thought, okay, no, what is the process of getting there? Sorry for anyone who's listening, not watching me right now. I'm kind of like swinging to the side to indicate process and journey. I hope this is a good visual. But as soon as I focus on the process of doing, rather than what I wanted it to look like, and I just told myself to use what I had already, it just became so much easier. And the outcome was not what I had in mind, but it was so much better than what I had in mind. What I tell people through Pensive and through NPR is that creativity is an inherent part of who we are as humans. And creativity is a muscle that needs to be practiced over and over and over again. So when you hold yourself back through these perfectionist tendencies, basically me, I am that perfectionist person. You're holding yourself back from the act of practicing the creative practice. When you're creative in your day-to-day, in your daily life, you start to put things together in different ways, you start to innovate and think outside the box, and you never know when you can use this skill of creativity. I think we make it smaller than it should be. So that's why I really emphasize, fun activities in the NPR practice, like doodling and quote of the day and word of the day. It's just simple and it's fun and it gets you thinking every day. And then that small act will contribute and cascade into a larger flexing of your creative muscles, if that makes sense. My primary focus when I am thinking about NPR and the activities, especially, is the separation of creative life and creative work. Because as a creative person myself, that I accept this label of creative. I am a creative person. I'm taking in. As a creative person myself, I sometimes can't switch between, okay, this is work and this is for myself. So when I engage with NPR activities and stuff, I know, okay, I'm doing this creatively for me. I'm doing this creatively for my work. But if I don't do creativity at all, I am not helping myself in any way. I want to talk a little bit about what it means to call yourself a creative and maybe an artist. I have a lot of people around me who don't consider themselves creative at all. And I just have to say, but you are, because you're alive. But also I think that being and considering yourself a creative, I don't know, for some, maybe it's me, but sometimes it's seen as not negative, but it's not as valuable as being logical. And I really resent that. I think that sometimes creativity and being seen as logical are seen as being at odds with each other. And I don't think that should be the case. They can obviously work in tandem, but being logical is more highly valued. And maybe I should tell a personal story so kind of where I'm coming from, because this is something I only realized recently. Excuse me for another therapy interlude. So when I was younger at school, I went to a school that very much valued maths and science as the highly regarded subjects. And I wasn't bad at either of them. I just had no interest. Well, it's not I had no interest. I had less of an interest in that. And because I wasn't a super mathematical genius, I wasn't considered one of the smartest people at school. And now I know for a fact that that's not true. But it was very much told to me by adults at the time that I was not one of the smartest, simply because I wasn't in the top set for maths. Which thanks for that, guys. But that did have an effect on me and how I thought about myself and my intelligence. I didn't think like everybody else, and that was not seen positively. So if you are at school currently, or a young person under 25, because you are very much a young person if you're under 25, just because you're not good at math doesn't mean you're not smart. I'm telling you that right now. But this is something that I had to carry with me for a long, long time. And I thought, because I think differently and I want to be creative, and when I go to uni, I want to do Japanese, and everyone thought that was really weird. And why don't you do Chinese instead? Because that seems more logical. And I thought, well, I don't have that affinity with like Chinese culture and language. So why would I want to study that for like 3-4 years? It just made sense to me to do Japanese, but that wasn't the logical thing to do. And why would you do that? You can't get a job after. What are you thinking? Even though I thought, okay, I'm not smart, it didn't stop me from doing what I wanted to do. So I good on you, young me. You just kept going anyway, because why not? There was a book that really like changed things for me by a neuroscientist, sorry. I can't remember the name. It's a Japanese name at least. I'm not sure if they were raised. I think they were raised in either the UK or the US. And it was about the brain. And I don't know why I picked up, it was like random book in Waterstones, just about brains. I guess I've always been interested in figuring out what my brain is doing. And I just remember it saying neurologically, like, people have different brains, obviously, but people have different brains that are set in different ways and have different types of intelligence. And it talked about creative intelligence. And I just remember crying because I was like, oh, I'm not stupid. I may not be like a science buff, even though I'm reading a book about neuroscience. I may not be a science buff, but it doesn't mean that my creativity is without value. And that, I don't know, I was like 18 and I was like, oh my God, wow. And I don't know, this was a really big deal for me. So I hope that this kind of resonates with some people. I hope that they're not feeling the same way I did, where they think that because they think a certain way that they're not intelligent enough, or that certain skills that they have that aren't hard skills, I guess. Is that the word we're using? Hard skills. Everything you can do is of value, basically, is what I'm saying. So when I read this book, I thought, okay, well, what I'm able to do with my brain and come up with all these ideas has value. And that carry through to all the fashion stuff. And, I think, again, I'm glad of how resilient I am, because, if you tell someone you did fashion and you ran a magazine and they're like, oh, that's really cool, but like, what can you do with that? I'm like, so many things. Do you know how, as creative people, we know we have to do everything under the sun in order for you to get the pretty visual aesthetic thing at the end of it. So don't talk to me about soft versus hard skills, because I can do anything. Sorry, that came from a very deep and wounded place. That's kind of this personal story I wanted to share about creativity. And I can't even remember why I wanted to share that. Let me think for a second. I remember now why I wanted to say that, because creativity and logic are not at odds with each other. The best approach is, as with basically everything, is to have a balance of both, to back up your creativity with logic and ground it with logic. But also the best thing to do is to create structures within which you can express yourself. I understand the value of logic and being grounded and being structured and creating boundaries and practicality, because without those things, you as a person cannot function. And if you are running a business or running your life, you need to have these practical measures in place. But in order to enjoy yourself and have fun and express yourself, you need to be able to be creative. And these things, without a doubt, work together. I haven't even started to ask myself any of the questions that I wrote down. So maybe I should ask some of those, because I think I've finally concluded my spiel about the importance of creativity and to value yourself as a creative. So now that we've all understood this, because we should, I'm looking at all of you. I'm looking at every single person through the fourth wall. I wanted to ask myself some questions because this is a dialogue with me. Hello, me. What is the difference between an artist and a creative? And this may seem like a very existential, pointless question, but there's reasons why I was asking myself this. I also wanted to ask, is a creative a diluted artist? And the reason I put this forward, because the word creative, like I'm a creative, is being used in corporate circles and social media circles. And I think I just have a personal gripe with it because I worked for a hot second in a social media marketing agency, and I was on the creative team. To me, like, I think, as you can tell, creativity is a very important and deep and emotional and personal and vulnerable part of my life. To be on the creative team in like a corporate social media setting, I was like, what is this? Felt like using my creativity for evil, you know? Not that the place was bad or anything. It's just, it wasn't for me. But I think a lot of these corporate 9-to-5 settings aren't for me. But I think that's a personal problem rather than anything else. But it just made me think about what creativity is being seen as and being regarded as now. What am I trying to get to grips with? That's the question. I think it's having the boundary between the creative work and creative life. Because what I think I'm starting to reckon with is having a complete separation from both. Because before I did not have one. When I was doing the magazine, I was like, this magazine is me. I am a walking piece of paper, a glossy one. But now, Pensive is my creative work, and I put so much love and care and effort into it. But I have to acknowledge that this is my work, and I can't give every ounce of vulnerability and everything because it will just be so draining. But I kind of want to do that for my own personal art, creative work. How do you define creativity? Is it something that everyone has, or is it a skill that needs to be nurtured? I think both. I think we're all born with creativity, and some of us are nurtured into it and some of us are told, stop it. Stop doing that. And then we start to believe that we're not creative anymore, which makes me really sad. I don't know, I couldn't imagine a life without creativity. For you, what's the difference between creativity and art? Can something be creative without being considered art? When I was doing the corporate stuff, social media marketing, at first I was really excited to come up with like ideas for campaigns and even influencers that could be a part of those campaigns, because I liked what they were doing. I liked what they were about, and like how we could create sets and like what kind of imagery we could use and that kind of thing. But the more you actually delve into the creation of it, it just sucks the lifeblood out of it. Like I did a literal 10-hour shoot for an alcoholic brand, a literal tent. It was just me and the photographer, and it was just, okay, let's move the perspex 1 centimeter to the left. And sometimes, honestly, sometimes that's what artistry is also. It's move the perspex 1 centimeter to the left. But in that moment, I didn't consider it art. So is it not art if it's purely marketing? Because we were still being creative. There were still creative aspects to get the exact right shot for it to look good and attract an audience, and for someone to think, oh, that looks cool. And, you know, because there's a lot of money being put into this advertising. Like, you want people to stop and look at it. So how can we use our knowledge of creativity to make something visually appealing? And so, yeah, in that aspect, it was good. Do I consider those pictures artwork? No. So where do I draw the line? Is it the inner rage? Or is it the money? Is it the corporate capitalism of it all? I don't know. I don't have answers. I'm asking myself further questions. Content creation has become such a machine. So you can't just look good. You have to have the right camera, the right setting. It has to look professional. People hire whole teams, have whole days just to shoot for like a 9:16 portrait photo on Instagram. It's strange because it's like I don't want to take away, and I'm not taking away from anyone's absolute talent, because there's so many people involved in these processes, like hair, makeup, styling, photography, lighting, camera action, like everything. But because of the absolute, the fast pace, the nature that is content creation, the hamster wheel that you can just never get off, you don't actually get to appreciate the work to the fullest extent. I know I don't. And it makes me quite upset, because a lot of these pictures, they have a long list of credits of people who've worked on it, and you just kind of go, okay, and you scroll past. Even worse, you don't even remember what you just looked at, even 10 seconds after you've looked at it and given it a like. And so the role of the creative is just known and praised for 0.3 seconds. I think that's what I've been trying to get at in this conversation about creativity and artistry, because I think there is a difference. And maybe just in the way that it's being received rather than put out. Maybe that's where the difference is, because so many like really talented graphic designers and video editors, and photographers, they put a lot of work into their social media presence, and they're so creative. And it's just, sometimes I think, what for? Sometimes even, with my own work, I'm just like, what is it for? Who is this for? When I eventually in the next 10 years actually post something online, maybe of my own artwork, and someone scrolls past it in 0.5 seconds, I'm like, what was that for? Or like when it goes onto a website that no one's ever going to click on, who was that for? And so is my creativity always going to be more valuable if it's created with an audience already in mind? Because that's what a lot of YouTubers, I know YouTubers do that. They think of the thumbnail and title even before the video has been made. And so they know who it's for. So their creativity is directed in that way. It's audience first. It's audience first creativity. Is that good? It's neither good nor bad. It is what it is. What I'm trying to do is just having these open discussions with myself, because I'm the only one here. These open discussions about creativity, because maybe people who are currently in creative fields and feeling a bit stuck might come to understand why. Because I think, the social media conversation, like I said, is being had. But there's so many like iterations and versions and reasons as to why. I wish there was a way that we could kind of reverse the content creation not cycle. I wish there was a way we could undo it, or undo some aspect of it, because it's way too fast paced. I feel like, well, obviously my attention span is shot. Like it's terrible. What is good on there is being lost. But if there's a way to get all this content offline or slow it down, or is there a way? Because I want to see what people are doing. I like that I can access people from all over the world and from all different backgrounds and artistic mediums and everything. And and get to know their work. And I want to be able to remember it for more than 10 seconds. I want them to know how much their creativity matters as well. I don't think that's being put across to them. So maybe someone watching this can figure something out. I don't know. But I hope that we can find a way to slow down. I don't know why that turned into ASMR. Slow down and appreciate one another. What role does failure play in the creative process? How can it be seen as an opportunity rather than a setback? Well, I think I talked about this already, kind of with my stagnancy of 2 years. I think pauses and misdirects allow you to actually figure out what it is that you actually want to do, where you want to go. Unfortunately, part of trial and error is error. Because truly, I've learned so much just by messing up repeatedly. But there's such a fear of failure because it's so public as well. Like if you put something online and no one likes it, then you don't have any inclination to try again. Like, why would you? Everyone's going to hate me. But you just have to keep trying and just give yourself the opportunity to keep trying, or just keep quiet and don't post online and then post something, or don't. That's the other thing. Don't post. Don't tell anyone. Just do it for yourself. That's something that's not really talked about, is like doing things for yourself. What a concept. Creativity for oneself without validation. Now there's a thing. Who doesn't want to be validated by external appreciators, the audience saying, well done? Not me. I want people to tell me I'm great all the time. I think definitely if there's some kind of fear of failure or fear of creation even, because that's another thing. The fear to get started. Just start for yourself. Don't think about the audience. Just do it. How important is authenticity in art? Can art be considered successful if it's not personally meaningful to the artist? I think, first of all, I would have to... This is something I honestly, I wanted to write an essay about it. I don't know. Whenever I have strong feelings, I'm like, my first thing to do is like, let me write an essay. An essay that will never get written. So I might as well just say it here. I have a problem with the word authenticity. I have a problem with how it's being used. The only way that something can be deemed authentic if it's authenticated against something else. For example, you know, when you have like a luxury item and you go to get it authenticated and there's certain markers of your Louis Vuitton bag being authentic. Like that's what, I don't know. Obviously, it doesn't mean that. Authentic as opposed to not being authentic, as opposed to you were just going through something where you were figuring yourself out. Like just because you haven't reached the absolute pinnacle of who you are, it doesn't mean that who you were wasn't real. There's so many iterations and versions of you at any given moment. I think there's a difference between being authentic and lying to yourself, because I think, you know, maybe deep down you can know what it is that you value and like and want to do and who you want to be, but you can lie to yourself because you're scared or societal pressure or whatever. Maybe in that sense it's authentic. I don't know, but you're still kind of just being you because you're scared. But it's not being the most honest version of you. I don't know, maybe I'm being semantic, but there's something about this word authenticity that's kind of just thrown around. I forgot the question because I was busy ranting about the word authentic. So let's stop there. So what was the question? How important is authenticity in art? Well, if you come from a place of authenticity, as in you're being truthful to yourself with the information that you currently have about yourself and what you truly desire. Is it important in art? I'm trying to think of inauthentic pieces, or like what would be considered inauthentic. Like if you painted something outside of your experience that you'd never seen before, that you imagined. But even then, it'd be something fantastical that you probably desired. I don't actually know. How important is authenticity in art? I think in regards to like something to do with your identity, then it's important. Do you have to be authentic? In art, I think, okay, in art, I think it's beneficial. In marketing, no. You can lie and say what you want. But art is not inherently successful if just because you're being authentic, because it could suck. Because you could suck. And that would be a personal attack. Moving on. Another question I wrote for myself is, can you be an artist part-time? I mean, technically, absolutely yes. But in my image of like the great and suffering artist, no, you must be living and breathing and dying for your art 24/7. And I think this, again, stems from personal issues. So to make sense of this, I have to rewind. And I should have said this at the beginning, but I don't know why I didn't. Is that while I was in my stagnant 2-year period of figuring out my art, I was also realizing that like not creating was actually stagnating my progression and improving my mental health, because I just wasn't, maybe this is where the authenticity thing came from. I just wasn't being myself. Like ever since I was young, I'm like, I want to be a writer. I want to be a dancer. I want to be a music video director. Music video director was number one for ages. And honestly, it's in the back of my mind. Like if someone gives me the chance, I will direct music videos. I love it. Anyway, when I just didn't create anything for 2 years, it was just a very symbolic of me stagnating in my personal growth, because the ideas were there, but I just wasn't doing anything about it. This is nothing relating to being an artist part-time. We'll get back to that. I've got to talk about me again. I had to talk to my therapist, very millennial of me, to talk to my therapist about the importance of creativity in my life. I ended up crying, actually. You know, there's like topics that like break you in therapy. Mine was, I'm not an artist, but it was the thing that I have always wanted for myself, and I've always seen myself doing, and I've always envied other people who could be full-time artists. There we go. There's the answer to the question. I've always envied people who tour the world and their life is creating art. And I just always wanted to be that person, whatever it was, photography, whatever. I wanted to be that person. And Pensive is my beautiful little business, and it structures my day to day. So I need structure in what I'm doing with my life. But within this structure that I've created for myself with like Pensive and NPR and like finding a mindful and grounded perspective to my day and my life, within that, I exist in this fantasy of being like a whimsical little elf. I don't know. It's just it's fluffy and sparkly and glittery in there. Like it's a fun place to be. And that's kind of where I've always wanted to exist full time. Because that's my image of an artist, is just being it and living it and breathing it. And that's probably super unhealthy because we need some boundaries. But as I discovered recently, and this is what I said on the Creative Minds interview, is that I went to an exhibition recently at the Saatchi Gallery. There were a bunch of, it was about flowers, and there was just, just pieces of art from various artists. And there was one that was just like pastel on an opened envelope, and it was great because like the envelope kind of mimicked the shape of an open flower and stuff. But my takeaway from that was, this is just like a doodle on an envelope. Like someone opened it, someone opened an envelope and was like, la la la, and it made its way into this institution. of art, and it's been validated, and it's in the art chair, you know? Like, it's art. And I was like, I could just make something. This is just a room. I was in the art. I was like, this is just a room full of stuff on paper mostly. I have paper. I could just draw something and it makes it art. It's just a collection of stuff that is showcased at a point in time, and if it's really good, it's embedded in our cultural consciousness over a period of time, and a large amount of people know about this thing, and it has a significant marker of importance as deigned by institutions, and then eventually like people learn about it and the underlying meaning and blah blah blah. But like, it was a pastel flower on an envelope. So even though I'm talking about living and breathing and dying and what is art and what is creativity and blah, blah, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. But to me, it's deep, and that's why I cried over it in therapy. So again, juxtaposing existing at both ends of the spectrum. I'm a Libra. I have to see both sides of things. People are complex and weird, and give me some space, guys. I'm having a moment. I'm in a room by myself, talking to myself. Like, it's a whole thing. This idea that I built up in my head about what it means to be creative and be an artist is the thing that's holding me back from actually doing the thing. I'm my own worst enemy. Aren't we always? To even claim that label of artist. Is it necessary? No. Do I want to claim it? Yes. Do I struggle with claiming it? Yes. Because what am I doing? Nothing. So can I even claim the label of an artist? I'll do it. I'll do it for myself. Thanks for coming to my therapy session. Because for myself and a lot of other creative people, I know that most of the time, the art is just helping you to figure out who you are and how to navigate this crazy world. And I think it's just popped into my head again, going back to social media and art intersecting, the idea of branding. When you are going through a process and the figuring out part, it looks messy, and no one wants to receive a mess on a plate. You know, here's my mess. We want to be presented with a coherent brand of a person who is understandable in their niche, who understands themselves and their work fully, that they're able to present it coherently and in a poised way. You know, and we get very structured and processed eras of, I don't know, female pop stars and artists and stuff. But that's just not how life works, and that's not how process works. I think branding has undone a lot of people's willingness to experiment and overdone the need to copy. I'm not going to talk about TikTok. I'm not going to do it. I don't use it, so therefore it does not exist to me. Branding yourself, your personal brand, has gone to such extremes that people will try to find themselves authentically, in quotation marks, through what they've seen online, through other people's lens or style, or trying to navigate their self artistically, creatively through other people's work. And it just all gets a bit messy, really. What book was it that I was reading? I think it was Naomi Klein's Doppelganger, where she talks about, there's a book in the 90s, I think that was kind of laughed off because the author discussed the rise in importance of personal branding in the 90s, and Everyone was like, that's not going to be a thing. And now we're seeing that is the crux of most people's online presence and marketing. And, people talk about themselves as a brand, and you are inherently linked to your brand. And what does that say when creativity asks you to undo and redo yourself? It's like, no, well, that doesn't fit in with my brand. I have to stay in this very flattened and decided kind of way. That works for social media because you need to be remembered in 0.3 seconds or however long it is. I keep making up numbers, but it's a very short amount of time. The personal branding stuff works there, but if you're an artiste, if you're a true artist, it will never work. I don't know. Now I'm thinking like we're living in strange times where I'm dissecting the ramifications of social media on like art and cultural impact, and how social media soon will take over and branding. And I don't know, it doesn't feel like these things coexist just yet. And one certainly outweighs the other, which is social media. And it's come to the point where, as an artist, you have to be aware of your social media presence because now you are your work. Imagine, can I just say, imagine if Picasso, who I have to remind myself several times died in 1980. In my mind, this man exists in the 15th century. I don't know, like he's old, but no, he died in 1980. Imagine if he had Instagram. Imagine if Picasso had to use Instagram to promote his work. All his wives. Didn't he have like multiple wives? And we would have been like, yes, Queen, slay, blue era. Like, what the hell? What the hell? And then someone would have done a deep dive on Picasso. Like, he stole this. He stole this inspiration from Africa. And then there would have been like, it would have gone viral. Like, what the hell? I don't know if that's a good thing but it's very strange just to think about. Imagine, because his personal branding would have sucked. For real. No one would have been interested. Maybe during his time, because he was such a philanderer with women, like it was cool. It's not cool now. So he wouldn't have become the cultural icon that he is today. That's my take on Picasso having Instagram. Was he being authentically himself? Absolutely. Was he successful because he was authentic? No. Maybe. I very, very much don't remember half the stuff I learned in A-level Spanish about Picasso. So, lo siento to Picasso. I forgot all about you. Maybe I should round this up with some reflections. What's the best advice you've received about creativity and artistry that has shaped your work? Has anyone even given me advice? Maybe it's the advice I've given myself. I don't really have like an artist community that I've been a part of. I've met artists along the way, but my memory is so bad I could not remember a single piece of advice. But it would probably be something along the lines of just keep going, which is what I continue to do. Despite the horrors of the world, I just keep going. Oh dear. How do you stay motivated in your creative practice when things don't go as planned or when you face creative blocks? I'm going to be really real. Like, the way I get through things is I wake up one day and I just decide that I'm going to be different. And I don't know how, that's not practical advice, is it? It's just like, okay, today's different. That's not how people usually think. I allow myself to go through low moods and moods of intense inspiration and then moods of nothing. But I think the thing that's helped me the most recently is taking myself to the library. I take a book and a pencil I've got a book just for like my art ideas and a book for my book ideas. So I take that to the library. I just write whatever comes to mind. And the thing that's helped me the most is absolute mindful non-judgment of what is going from the pencil to the paper. Also, for some reason, pencil, super cathartic, and obviously like pencil doesn't run out of ink and become really annoying. So that's good. When you just allow yourself to just get in the flow of things and be in absolute silence and let your mind do the work, and you just sit with it and you just, like, when you watch paranormal things and people like possessed, that's what, that's my creative process. Being possessed by whatever demon inspired me that day and just getting on the paper. And then looking back at it a week later and being, what did I write? Because that happens a lot. I'm like, who wrote this? It was not me. Exorcism. If you could change one thing about the way creativity is perceived or valued in today's society, what would it be? I would say that from a young age, because this would have helped me greatly, is that we tell young people that if they think differently outside the box and enjoy things that, don't fit in with the other kids, doesn't make you a little freak. It makes you you. Just starting from school, if we could encourage kids to do music GCSE and drama and not put it to them as you're doing drama because you can't do maths. Don't do that. That's rude. That's not true. You're doing drama because you enjoy it and you're good at it. You do maths because you enjoy it and you're good at it. I don't question you. I'm not like, oh my God, weirdo, you like maths? Sometimes I am. But, that's not questioned. But when you start doing other things immediately, red flag for some reason. I would also like to change content creation and slow it down. Maybe I did. I said I'm full of them. Instead of algorithms favoring daily posting, there should be some kind of algorithm that favors weekly posting. Not like in a YouTube sense, but I'm talking about like Instagram like type things where you feel like you have to post every day. There has to be a way for this kind of short form content where people don't feel pressured to record 27 videos and then post them all in one day in the hopes that one of them gets picked up for virality, because content creation has gone beyond like, oh, that's a good video. Like, it has to go viral now. And that's not based on anything creative. That's just based on, I guess, what's trending. And I don't know if there was a way to implement something that would take you off the app and then only come back to it like once a week to like check in with some creative stuff. Like having some distance between you and the content. Because I know that when I have distance between me and something like creative, like, when your favorite artist, Frank Ocean, hasn't put out an album for like 5 to 8 years, and you'll start like thinking, does he even exist anymore? Like, Frank, where are you? I know you're in Tokyo. I saw you. Anyway, if you have some distance, you start to appreciate the effort that was gone in. And then also you do this really cool thing of going back to their previous work and understanding it in a different way, because you start breaking down the layers and intricacies of their work and the meaning behind it and the context within which they created it, that kind of thing. Frank, please put out another album. Begging you. Those are my questions. Those are my thoughts on content creation, creativity, artistry. This really went in a different direction than what I thought I would go down. As per usual, it became unnecessarily existential. I hope that some of my personal stories resonated with you. I would love to hear anyone else's stories about their struggles with creativity, artistry, or their triumphs. we need some success stories, guys. This was interesting, fun, deep. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun doing it. And talk to me, email me, podcast@pensive.studio if you want to get involved or chat or give feedback or whatever. I also have a Substack, which I will do my best to update. I'm going to send out newsletters, I promise. So you better subscribe also to get updates about NPR stuff, the course. And please subscribe to this YouTube channel for future YouTube videos. And thank you for listening and watching. And I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.